I'm going to talk about this strange Sanskrit word, Yukta-Vairāgya, and Dungeons and Dragons. Who's heard of Dungeons and Dragons before? Oh, most people. Who's played it? A few, but much less. So everyone's heard of it? A few people have. So, overview of today. I'm going to teach you some Sanskrit words. Sanskrit, ancient language. It's kind of the origin of most of the world languages. Have some root in Sanskrit. All European languages, many of the Asian languages also. Maori has some roots in Sanskrit also. It's the origin language. I'm going to teach you these words and explain what they mean in the context of spiritual life. And even if you're not interested in Dungeons and Dragons, it's going to be very educational, hopefully. So, Viharasya, Shakya, Yukta-Vairāgya, and Lila and Loka. Viharasya, meaning recreation. Shakya, friendship. Yukta-Vairāgya, appropriate renunciation. And there's a mystery to explore. One teacher in the line of Krishna-consciousness got into a lot of trouble for something in this photo, or painting. And we'll explore what it was and why and how it all links to this topic. That sounds interesting? Let's get started. Okay, Viharasya, recreation, and the story of how I personally got into playing Dungeons and Dragons. So have you ever come back, who's either studying or working? Everyone, okay, great. Yes, have you ever come back from your studies or work and felt like this? Where you're like, my place is messy, I had a really hard day, I'm physically exhausted, I'm mentally exhausted, I need some recreation. There's nothing, can't do anything productive anymore. Yeah, everyone's nodding. It's like, yes, this happens to me too, of course. You can imagine my intellectual job. I come back home after thinking, having like meetings all day or doing something really complicated in AI all day. I'm like, oh, I just can't think anymore. I just need some recreation, need something. And indeed, if we turn to the Bhagavad Gita, the spiritual text that we study here at the Loft, Bhagavad Gita has this verse that explains, one who is regulated in their habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So, regulated eating at the same time, sleeping at the same time, getting good sleep, so important. Getting good recreation, so important. Having a regulated schedule of recreation. Most people that think of Krishna-consciousness are like, what? Recreation? That's not spiritual? What? Mystery. How we can integrate this? So, hold that thought. We'll get back to this need for recreation. But first of all, rewind 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, middle of the pandemic, bought my son something for Christmas that looked much like this Dungeons and Dragons starter pack. And we started playing it, he really liked it. But you look at this, and that's what's in the package. You're like, what kind of game is this? It's like a bunch of paper and some dice? What? Whole bunch of textbooks and some dice? How's that going to be fun? And it's indeed, for those that haven't played, it's a unique kind of game experience. It's kind of like a board game, but there's no board. It's kind of like a video game, but there's no computer. It's kind of like improv acting, but far less scary, because improv acting, if anyone's a bit shy and introvert, you don't want to do improv acting on the spot, on stage, improvising, you're terrifying for an introvert. So Dungeons and Dragons is not that at all. It's much more safe in that regard. And it's kind of like a theater play, but there's no script. So what is this thing that prides itself as being the world's best role-playing game? And how can we adapt it to be spiritual? Well, some reasons why it's so popular. And this, by the way, is my 11-year-old son, who I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with initially, and who is now playing it with other kids. One, it creates a safe outlet, a creative outlet in a safe environment. You can express yourself creatively in a completely safe way where you're not going to be embarrassed, not going to feel like you did something wrong. It's incredibly fun. And it's real life. It's not on a screen. Many people you spend all day on the screen, your phone follows you, your phone screen time tells you, you've spent 50 hours this week on your screen. You're like, oh no, I need to get away from my screen. So for all those reasons, in real life, fun and creativity, it's very popular, and of course, probably the most reason why most people have heard of it, these two things. There was a recent movie, Dungeons and Dragons Unarmed Thieves, that was popular, and Baldur's Gate 3, which is probably the most popular computer game ever created. So many people are still playing that. And so let's watch, if you like, a quick video explaining the benefits of D&D. It's more like an advertising video from the company that makes it, but I thought it's fun and interesting to watch, and interesting to see how this game has changed over the years.
45 years after the birth of the game, D&D has more players and is more popular than ever. But I want to know why this traditionally stigma-ridden game has become so incredibly successful.
Come play. I don't care if you have no idea what this game is, just try it.
Dungeons & Dragons is tapping into a deep need that people have to create things and to stop being passive about their entertainment.
It's a really good exercise for your imagination. And that's why we love it.
And who could resist unconventionally sided dice? Nobody.
A theater person, a philosophy person, a theology person, an analytical, detail-oriented person. There's a little something in there for everyone.
But it's also going to open up this new horizon that you just didn't realize you had, that you can't find in a video game, that you can't find in passive entertainment. It is intentional, purposeful, interactive entertainment, and there's just nothing like it.
It's like a whole new world playing the game as adults and as creative professionals.
Making D&D easy to get into has been a goal of ours since the release of 5th edition.
5th edition's easy. Like, anybody can pick it up and play. If you want to learn how to play, you can play. Where 4th edition, 3rd edition, these were much more complex games that were trying to rival video games, which were not.
People don't realize it, but they can jump into the world only reading a few chapters of that book, really just reading what they need to know for that specific character they're going to be playing, and then having a dungeon master who can teach them the rest as they go.
And the first thing they tell you when you start playing is, you can't really screw up the rules. If you are enjoying yourself, if you are entertained and being entertaining, then you're doing it right. You just won D&D.
And that the people playing the game might not look the way people stereotype D&D players. There are the stereotypes of what the gamer looks like. All you have to do is turn on a few D&D streams and realize, oh, people of all types play this game. And I think that's a powerful visual message.
But we're just like a really varied group, 100%. It goes to show that anybody can play this game. There's not a look, there's not a type.
What many really find appealing about D&D is the analog nature of the game. Coming face to face with your friends to enjoy a wholly unique experience is giving people something they've desperately been missing.
We live in a world where we do a lot of stuff alone. Even our friendships are kind of alone. Like, you're friends with someone through Twitter, which you like stuff, and that's how they know they're your friend. And this is something that really requires you. D&D, it's the nerdiest game ever created, but it requires friends, to play it. And I think that's something we really appreciate in kind of a technological, screen-oriented world.
Everybody I know playing Dungeons & Dragons is having more fun than they've ever had before, and they're having it with friends, and they're having it away from their devices.
The more you're on social media, the more you're sort of connected and plugged in, the more you realize it gives you nothing. That your hours on Facebook or your hours online looking at stupid things is just, it's your life wasting away. And it's sitting at a table surrounded by people like you that you care about, telling a story is where real joy lives.
I read this article from a researcher that said humans were wired to be social creatures and to tell stories. These are innate human traits. And yet, what are most people afraid of, right? Most people are afraid of talking to other people and sharing stories. And Dungeons & Dragons actually provides you this safe construct to do both. So it's giving you this basic human need, and it's making it easier and really safe. So if you're not doing that, then yeah, you're kind of shortchanging yourself.
Dungeons & Dragons, I think, fulfills a very primitive Homo sapien desire. That it just feels good. It feels like going to therapy or exercising or like stretching a muscle. You feel so relieved.
We as humans exist largely in story. The defining characteristic of humans is our ability to engage in empathy and create and consume narrative. If you love stories, and you do because you're a human, you're missing out on a truly unique storytelling experience if you've never done interactive storytelling with other humans through role play.
All right, so that gives a good overview, but okay, so how's any of this spiritual, right? You're thinking, you're here at the Loft, you're expecting some kind of spiritual thing, I'm telling you about some role-playing game. How does this connect? Well, let's get back to this quote. One who's regulated in their habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and so on can mitigate all pains, all material pains go away if you can do this, if you can be regulated. And if we look at the Sanskrit of this verse, this all ties in together. It's Yukta-Vairāgya, Yukta-Achistaya karmasu, Yukta-Swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Don't expect you to understand that. But this word, yukta, at the start of every single verse means kind of regulated, appropriate, spiritualized. And Yukta-Vairāgya is regulated renunciation. So this title of this talk, Yukta-Vairāgya, Yukta is all over the idea of recreation. And we'll get back to that. But let's take deeper into Shakya, friendship. And some people may not be aware, we are living through another pandemic, the pandemic of loneliness. Let's watch a brief video to explain.
If you do a search for I have no friends on YouTube, the results are filled with experiences of young people feeling lonely. They struggle to make real connections. These videos have thousands and even millions of views, which means that they must be resonating with people.
And I'm sitting alone in my apartment at my desk staring at my computer. Because I don't have any friends. I don't know how to make friends and I'm scared. I just want to run into somebody. I hate meeting people online. It's so awkward. And you put all this into a conversation, but when you meet someone, you don't have that. I feel like I need to meet people. I need to meet people, but I don't know how, and I don't think it's possible as an adult to just run into people.
Have you ever had friends that secretly hate you? I had a lot of them in my life, which is why I am 30 years old and I have no friends.
And a Harvard Graduate School of Education survey found that 61% of young people ages 18 to 25 reported experiencing profound loneliness, including feeling lonely all the time. And this was compared to only 36% among other age groups. In 2022, 30% of young people aged 16 to 24 in the UK say that they don't know how to make new friends and have never felt more alone. To add to the situation, for some reason, it seems that men are feeling more lonely than women. According to the Survey Center on American Life, 55% of men had at least 6 close friends in 1990, but this figure has decreased to 27% today. Alarmingly, the number of men without any close friends has increased 5 times since 1990, while women are getting much lonelier too. This highlights a significant loss in meaningful connections among the male population.
Meanwhile, those with literally 0 close friends, which stood at 3% in 1990, has zoomed to 15%.
US health authorities are calling for social isolation to be treated as seriously as obesity or drug abuse. Nearly 50% of all Americans are thought to be affected or have been affected at some point. Around the world, the figures may vary, but the loneliness phenomena is spreading. In his writing, Together, The Healing Power of Human Connection in a Sometimes Lonely World, Dr. Murthy describes loneliness as a health risk that can impact anyone, regardless of age, gender, culture, or background.
Loneliness increases the risk for heart disease, stroke, and among older adults, dementia.
It can harm mental and physical health, as well as social well-being, and increase the risk of an early death due to diseases such as diabetes, heart attacks, insomnia, and dementia. Studies have linked loneliness to higher blood pressure, high cholesterol, lower levels of physical activity, cognitive impairment, and mental health issues like anxiety, stress, mood disorders, and depression.
So yes, people are much more lonely than before. And part of a healthy life, is having friends, having relationships in a meaningful way, not in a transactional way like so many people are experiencing. And it just so happens that if we go back to that previous video, there was this one lady, Deborah Wood, Hollywood actress, who is a D&D dungeon master, among other things. And one thing she said, D&D, the nerdiest game ever created, but it requires friends. You can't do it alone. You have to be in person with some other people. And if we turn to Srila Prabhupada, who in the 1960s came over to America, taught this Krishna consciousness all over the world, he explains in a conversation, you render service to Krishna, you will be satisfied. Krishna will be satisfied, and as Krishna will be satisfied, everyone will be satisfied. So take to this Krishna consciousness service by hearing, by speaking, by remembering, by giving actual service, by worshiping, by making friendships. And after all, everything for Krishna, that is perfection. So if we can take this experience that requires friends and also spiritualize it, that is perfection, according to prominent spiritual teacher, Srila Prabhupada. The analogy Prabhupada uses over and over again in his books is the analogy of watering the root of the tree. You water the canopy of a tree, it doesn't get much water from that watering. You can pour so much water on the canopy, it doesn't really do much. The canopy absorbs and spreads it. But you move to the outside, you move to the watering zone. You water the roots of the tree. Then the entire tree is nourished. Any individual leaf, not so much. So by watering the root of everything, Krishna, everyone is satisfied in that friendship. And that's one of the main principles of spiritual service. You do the spiritual activity, not only does it satisfy you, or it satisfies you indirectly by watering the root, rather than trying to. So many people are desperately trying to be happy by pleasing their own senses. I will get this, I will buy this, and I will be happy. But real happiness, real enduring and unconditional happiness, as not bound by I'm happy if I get this, if I get that, only comes from watering the root. I've experienced this so many times in my own Krishna conscious journey. And of course, yes, friendships. Sometimes. Embarrass some of the staff here. All right. Now let's get to this topic of Yukta-Vairāgya, or appropriate renunciation. And what does it even mean to be spiritual? Many people think, what? To be spiritual, I will have to be like this guy, right? I will have to go to a Himalayas, get a cave, and live with no belongings, and that's like true spirituality, right? Anyone thought that? Yeah, a few people have. Now let's go to our mystery that I hinted at, foreshadowed at the start. If you look at the line of teachers in the Krishna consciousness spiritual tradition, goes all down. We go all right before Prabhupada is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was in India, and yes, unbroken line of teachers from many years ago. And in India, he was severely criticized for many things, but he lived from 1874 to 1937, and he was severely criticized because he was, can you imagine, wearing a wristwatch? Oh, travesty. And driving in a motor car, an imperialist British-made motor car. Ooh, how could you? That's not spiritual. To be spiritual, you have to live in a cave. You have to be like a guru that just wears a loincloth and has no material belongings. And he has imperialist British technology. He has imperialist British driving in a car. Ugh. Not spiritual, materialist. And he calls himself a guru. So, after hearing this accusation that people were leveling against him, Bhaktisiddhanta said, have you read any of our books? There's this concept of Yukta-Vairāgya. Not only is it spiritual, the nature of the thing itself doesn't make it spiritual or not. It's how you use the thing. Quotes this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or Nectar of Devotion, one of the books we said here. Whatever is favorable for the rendering of service to Krishna should be accepted and should not be rejected as a material thing. If you have something that's seemingly material, but you use it for the right purpose, as a service to Krishna. It waters the roof of a tree. It's actually useful. It is fully spiritualizes that thing that otherwise might seem material. He said, the wristwatch, I give so many lectures all over India. I need the wristwatch to get there on time. Otherwise, I'm wasting people's time. People go away and they can't hear about spirituality. The wristwatch is super useful. I'm going to accept it. The car, I can give so many more talks if I don't take 3 days to walk to my next location where I'm giving my next talk. It's useful. It's spiritualizing the car. Yes, the car might be material by itself, but by using it for the Yukta-Vairāgya, by appropriately renouncing, by not rejecting things offhand just because they might seem material, by using things appropriate yukta, that is true spirituality. So that's exactly what I'm attempting to do with this Dungeons and Dragons. Take this material game that's fun in and of itself and has many benefits, for sure, and make it even better by spiritualizing it. So then, Leelas and Lokas. Leela means stories, and Loka means places, which Dungeons and Dragons, Leelas and Lokas, the alliteration of the LL D&D, I thought it as a name. Kind of fun. Good name. So this will become a new workshop series at the Loft. And yes, Leelas and Lokas, based on the stories of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the, after you read Bhagavad Gita, you can read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It contains all kinds of spiritual knowledge. And but I talked all about Dungeons and Dragons and how the principles behind how we want to spiritualize it and all that, but we haven't actually explained how you actually play it. It seems kind of nebulous. Like, well, what do you do? Well, there's been a viral kind of video clip that went viral of, again, Deborah Atwood talking to another actor, John Bernthal. Here's some of the movies they've been in. And this is seen as like the best introduction to what is D&D in its essence. So if you like, I play this clip and we can get some idea. And if it's not been obvious, Deborah was there as a D&D game storyteller, dungeon master, the person leading the D&D game. I take a lot of inspiration from her style of running the game. I think she's very expert at hitting the right essence of what makes D&D fun.
I don't know what Dungeons and Dragons. Like, it's like a game, but like you imagine you're like in the game, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's just a collaborative storytelling with some characters.
And you tell the story.
Yeah, I'm a dungeon master, so generally I've written an arc and created a world, and then players explore it. And I make calls as to like how difficult it is to climb a wall or fight a monster or that kind of thing.
And so if you say this is a real difficult monster to fight, then you've got to come up with a different way of fighting it?
Yeah, or either it can just be like how hard you hit it and how long the thing goes, but it might be how do you negotiate your way out of it. If you can't actually kill a dragon, but it's going to eat you, how do you tell it not to? So there are other kind of checks that you can do, persuasions and deceptions and intimidation.
God damn.
You want to play D&D?
I mean, I'll try. I mean, what do you think
No,
I'd
like
be able to do it?
literally right now.
Sure.
All right. So you've got a bow strapped to your back, a sword and a dagger at your hilt, right? So you're walking through the woods. It's dark, it's at night. Almost no moonlight is coming through. You hear a crack off in the distance. Something large stepped on a branch. What would you do?
First thing, how far away is the crack?
Give me a perception check. So then you roll dice and we'd see how perceptive you are. Let's say you roll a 13, okay, and you're pretty perceptive, so you have a +3 to that, that's 16. So I know, okay, 16, that's pretty perceptive. You think it's about 20 feet away.
Okay. It's about 20 feet away. I think I take out my bow first.
Yeah. So you take a bow, you're readied, you're aimed, you're looking.
Right at where the spot's coming, yeah.
Okay, slowly creeping towards you, suddenly into view, a little bit of eye shine in the darkness, you see an owl bear. This is a 10, 15 foot tall monster. It looks like an owl, but it has the body of a bear. It opens its beak and squawks at you. What do you do?
Have I ever met an owlbear before? Like, are owlbears?
We could do a history check. So this is D&D. You're playing D&D.
I mean, a history check.
So a history check would be like, in your past, in
Yeah.
your history, have you experienced
Okay, so how do I
this
check?
before?
Yeah, let's
So you
check
would roll
that.
a dice. Let's say you have a low history. You roll a 13, but you have a -3, that's a 10. So no, you've never met an owlbear in your life. You have no idea whether it's threatening or not, but it is squawking at you.
I'd be like, yo, are you my friend or are you my foe?
Fantastic. You speak to it.
Yeah, I try.
Give me an animal handling check. So you'd roll another one. So this is, we kind of see, based on your character sheet that you've created, you're going to be good and bad at different things.
Who, I create the sheet?
You could, or I could, or you could get a pre-made sheet,
But why
that
don't
kind
you
of thing.
just make your sheet that you're great at everything?
Because, you know, if you're a wizard who's in school studying books to learn magic, you're probably not spending that much time in the gym. Versus if you're, you know, a knight who goes out and slays dragons, you know, maybe you're socially awkward and don't know how to talk to people, so your
So is it
charisma
within your
stats.
interest to like not be great at everything?
You want flaws. Like, one of my favorite characters, my friend Tommy played Viros. He was a prince. And the idea was that he was very, you know, he had been kind of pampered his whole life, and everyone always laughed at all his jokes and said that he was wonderful and handsome. But he's actually not that funny. He's not that handsome. He just has been sheltered. So when he got out in the world and started investigating, he thinks that he's this charming, suave individual, but his stats, his like literal charisma stats are very low. So he would fail constantly, and part of his story throughout the campaign was him learning that he wasn't as charming as he thought he was. So flaws are great. Flaws make good story.
But is the goal to win?
No.
What's the
There is
goal?
no goal is to tell a great story.
Tell a great story.
It's the greatest game ever created. And it's just collaborative storytelling. You just sit at a table. It's as close as you can get to when you were 7 on the play yard, just like making up games and stories. And I love it. And I will do it until I die.
Yeah, so just a bit of a hint on how this looks. This is part of a D&D character sheet that tells you what you're good at. You're like, are you strong? This particular person, very charismatic, very healthy, not very wise at all, not very smart, not very strong. And as part of being very charismatic, great at performance, great at persuading people. But like lifting stuff, it's something terrible. And as you go through, you try and inhabit this character and go on an adventure together. And that adventure, based on the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, ancient spiritual text. Yes, so Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 18 volumes, 18 books, we have them out there, that have profound philosophical stories in them. Every chapter is some lesson, some philosophical teaching that you can read. And reading to the end of it, supercharge your spiritual journey. After you read Bhagavad Gita, who here has a Bhagavad Gita? Let me see. Wait. Most people. Almost everyone. All right. After Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is next, and it jumpstarts your path to self-realization. And yeah, I've studied Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam for the past 20 years, and I've adapted some of these chapters into interactive adventures that we can play together and get this philosophical learning, water the root of the tree, while also having that fun. And anyone can join. No experience necessary, just desire for creativity and fun. And turning back to Prabhupada, it says, because the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam deals with questions and answers related to Krishna, we can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and make an all-round solution to all problems by doing this. And some people are intimidated by reading 18 giant books, so we can make it a little bit more approachable. Here are the first 5 stories that we'll be exploring. One is, I'm giving nothing away, each of these has some kind of twist to it that's very unexpected, believe me. Mrigari's hunt. Find out why animals are disappearing from the forest. Chitraketu's lamentation. The king is unhappy because he has no children. Wait, I don't know about that. Prithu's 100 sacrifices. Help conduct an elaborate sacrificial ritual. Nirga's charity. Distribute a large number of cows in charity. And Jedvar's story. Recruit staff for the king and find the seekers. So, each of these will be maybe about 2 hours, and we are planning, I think, Thursday night, not next week, but starting the week after. We'll deal with the logistics in a moment. But you're like, well, who or how do I play? So in D&D, there's 12 character classes that are like archetypes of various heroes that people can play. And these may or may not, when you pick up the game, you customize one of these characters to make them your own. As people do this, it's an idea of, yes, you can play someone who's like yourself, but you can also play someone who's very different from yourself, just for the sake of exploring. What it would be like to play someone to be someone else. You can explore that in a safe way, where no one's going to criticize you, no one's going to laugh at you. It's all part of the game. So, as part of this, I've also taken these character archetypes of various kind of fantasy heroes and adapted them to be in the mood of the Bhagavatam. So, we'll go through them. I've written a brief description for each of these 12. First one, and this art is from Wizards of the Coast, who is the company that makes D&D. It's amazing art. I just love the art. Anyway, so, the barbarian. As a barbarian, walking the path of the zealot, you receive boons from your chosen avatar, incarnation of God. You experience rage as an ecstatic episode of devotion. This fierce union grants you divine power and makes you a trusted ally to priests and Facebook devotees. So you might think, I don't want to play a zealot, a religious fanatic, right? I don't want to do that, but it might be fun to try it. Just like, inhabit that and just see what happens. Inhabit that kind of forceful, and for anyone that's like into Mahabharata comes from India, this is like the Bhima archetype. Next, the bard. Using music, dance, and verse, you expertly inspire others, soothe hurts, and dishearten foes. You might use the rhythm of a Bharatanatyam dance to coordinate allies, lead a lively kirtan, like we will do here later, and perform elaborate choreography, you worship Shiva, the Lord of dance. So, the bard, completely different. You might think, oh yeah, I would like to play that kind of person, dancing, inspiring everyone around me. Or, next one, the cleric. Devoted to peace, compassion, and the sanctity of life, you draw upon the divine energy that pervades all living beings. Using the power of mantra, you heal injuries, restore vitalities, guiding souls towards their chosen purpose and spiritual growth. Healer. Pacifist, there to soothe everyone's hurts. Next, the druid. You belong to an ancient order, using nature's magic to heal, transform, and shape the world. You guard the ecological harmony between people, plants, and animals. You guide others with your ancient wisdom and Chandra essentially for the moon's magic, to transform into animals, so that you are healers and can take the form of an animal or several animals. Next, the fighter. You are a Kshatriya, an elite soldier and royal champion with unparalleled prowess in weaponry. You see your martial profession as a sacred duty. You studied a method of archery that weaves sacred mantras into arrows and produces supernatural effects. So this is like the Arjuna archetype for those from an Indian background. And the ancient stories describe warriors weaving mantras into arrows and having supernatural effects. So this is right out of the Mahabharata. A monk. As a mendicant, you have few material possessions and are detached from worldly enjoyment. You have learned the art to manipulate prana, or life force, within yourself and others. Roaming from place to place, you help those in need and punish those who oppress. Next, paladin. You are the archetypal knight in shining armor. You live by the highest standards of conduct, holding your vows as sacred, always speaking the truth, protecting the weak, and standing firm in virtue, no matter the cost. Your honorable deeds shine as an example for all. And this is like the Yudhisthira archetype for those that know of the stories. Next, the ranger. You have a deep connection to the natural world, roaming in forests far from bustling cities. You see all living creatures with equal vision and form a special mystical bond with a special animal. As a caretaker and protector of the wilderness, you safeguard the balance of nature. Yes, you have an animal friend, companion, and guard nature. Next, the rogue. You combine stealth, agility, and trickery to liberate burdensome material wealth from those who are overly attached. With kind-hearted mischief, you remind others that possessions come and go, like the changing seasons, and clinging to them results only in lamentation. So you might as well give it to me. Next, the sorcerer. An influence from another loka, another planet or realm, has wrapped its tendrils around your mind, granting you mystic powers. You can now touch others' minds and alter the world around you. Power shines as a beacon of hope to friends. Your power shines as a beacon of hope to friends and a terrible nightmare to enemies. Two more. The warlock. Your pact draws upon the upper realms of divine opulence. By forging an arrangement with the demigoddess Kali, you wield both light and dark powers, allowing you to heal with heavenly light and terrify dark magic. And finally, the wizard. You are a learned scholar who has studied ancient stories, rituals, and incantations. You specialize in magic that tricks the mind into believing the illusions you craft. You show how the material world is Maya, illusion, revealing the eternal soul as the only ultimate reality. So, any of those sound like, yeah, I would like that. I would love to inhabit one of those and just kind of explore what it would be like to be one of those. All right, so, in summary, why play Leelas and Lokas? First of all, Viharasya, recreation, fun collaborative storytelling, a safe creative self-expression, and a screen-free entertainment. It's fun, it's recreation, regulated recreation, Yukta-Vairāgya, Yukta-Vairāgya. And Shakti, friendship. You work together in a team, telling these stories collaboratively. Great way to make friends, cure loneliness, socialize in person, and just connect with other people you don't know, or some you do know, get to know them better. And Yukta-Vairāgya, appropriate renunciation. You hear, experience, and remember the ancient wisdom from the stories of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which waters the root of the tree and provides ultimate satisfaction to everyone. So, who thinks that's something they would like to potentially do? Oh, practically everyone. Fantastic. So, in that case, I have sign-up forms. So, starting 6th of March, if all goes well with our logistics, D&D dinner every second Thursday evening. There is max 5 people per game, because any more and no one really gets a chance to speak. So you want 5 people and the storyteller in a game. And I've recruited Gauranga Prem, who's currently in the kitchen, cooking a feast for you, and myself will be hosting these sessions, so we can have 10 people per night. And we'll get through everyone. That's why with everyone that raised their hand and everyone that's not in this room that's also raising their hand virtually, we will need to gradually give everyone a chance to experience D&D. So that's why I'll take everyone's contact details who is interested and send you an email when our booking system is up, and you can book in and then see which of the sessions or maybe multiple sessions you'd like to join. And we can have great fun together. So either scan the QR code with your phone, or I have a sheet. We have some pens if you want to write things in. And in the meantime, any questions? And thank you very much, Chris, for your kind attention. Yes?
What if you already know the story?
Oh yes, what if you've read Bhagavatam? By the way, who has, when I hang on, let me go back to this. Who here is familiar with one or more of these stories? That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Most people aren't. But if you already know the story, chances are, when's the last time, say, you read the Prithu's 100 Sacrifices? A year ago? Okay, that's better than most people I know. Yeah, so most people even in a year, you've forgotten many of the details. You're broadly familiar with how the story goes, but you're inhabiting this. You're a character in the story, so the story might go slightly differently to how you expect, depending on how you react to situations. And it might, and even if you know the story, it's like if you had like a favorite movie or something. If you can watch it many times and it's not boring. It gets better every time you watch it. You spot more nuances in it. It becomes, you enter deeper into the story. You realize some symbolism the director put in that you didn't see the first time. So, yeah, even if you know the story, it becomes better and better the more you do it. Yes?
So you're saying that right now there's movies and TV shows written based off this?
Yeah, like the Russo brothers who directed Avengers Endgame. Yes, they are frequent players of D&D, and I hear they use D&D, the character creation system of D&D, to design characters in their movies. To because it's such an elaborate system of creating one of the characters. Like, this is a D&D character sheet here for the druid, and initially it's a bit intimidating. You don't need to learn it all initially, but you start off with everything you can do, and then all the spells and all the animals you can turn into, and then there's detailed descriptions of what each of your spells do, and it just goes on. So all of that stuff is great for creativity for someone in the creative industry, like the movie industry. And in the first video, the guy with the beard at the end, Patrick Rothfuss, he's written The Name of the Wind, which is like a super best-selling fantasy book. And again, he's using D&D. He's a prominent player. So yes, in the creative industry, it's very common. 50 million players all over the world. Anything else? Sure.
So every time a new game, you can choose a new character and you can stick with one character?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You can play D&D in two different ways. One is one-shots, which is what we're going to be doing here, where every game session is one story and one arc, and then it's over. And there is no continuity between them, necessarily. Or you can play a campaign, where you might play the same character for a year, and you gradually improve, you gradually gain skills and abilities over the course of the campaign. So here we're playing one-shots. And yes, you could play the same character from one story to another, but there won't necessarily be continuity. You can choose a different character and explore something else.
So would you say the story first before starting the game?
No, I throw you into the story. You know nothing, or you might know something, and you're like, just like Deborah and Will introduced, like let me give the introduction to one of them. Okay, Chitraketus. You're in the royal palace. You're a staff of the king, staff members of the king. The king summons you to his audience chamber and says, I have so many wives. All of them are barren, or their fault, and I cannot have a child. I'm depressed. What will happen to me? And more importantly, what will happen after my death? I will have no son to offer oblations to me, no son to save me from hell. It's a disaster. You have any advice? What do you think?
You should look into adoption.
I should look into it. I've tried so many different wives, millions of them.
Really?
None of them can help. All their fault.
Maybe we can do some rituals.
You know rituals? Who are you? Are you some mystic? I hired you. You didn't put that on your CV. I need someone who has some real skill in rituals to help me. I've tried everything. Healers and all the rest. No, nothing. Nothing's worked. You hear a knock on the door. What do you do?
Open.
So, yeah, like that. Throw you into the story. You don't necessarily know the context. You gain the context from what's happening, and fun ensues. Yeah, thank you. Great question. Anything else? No? Okay. So, thank you very much. Look forward to hosting our first game with you.